Poke the Bear is brought to you by Prizepicks and the Gametime app.
And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 314, presented by Prizepicks and Gametime tickets. My name is Conor Ryan, and once again, we are joined by the esteemed, the ever knowledgeable, the always positive Ty Anderson of 98.5 The Sports. I'm Ty. How are you doing?
Don't forget caffeinated as well.
Yes.
I am all right. I'm hanging in there. I think that we all agreed, right, that selling was the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're living it, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this actually kind of blows to deal with this, but this is where they are. This is the bed that they've made, and now we're all collectively lying in it. So it's one big gross miserable orgy. So it's a lot of fun right now, I'd say.
Yeah, it's not great, I would say. It is something where even like when this team was, hanging around 500 in October, November, and it felt like maybe this team just ain't it. And there's people talking about, oh, should they just blow it all up? Like trade everyone, like whatever. We got to hit the reset button. Maybe they're not completely blowing things up, but you see what happens when you do bottom out. Like this team has bottomed out for this season, and it's not fun. I don't know about you, Ty. I did not have a blast watching that game on Thursday against Vegas. Lose 5-1. They've been out. They've been held to 20 or under 20 shots, 3 straight games. The product on the ice is not great. Are there any positives we can glean from this recent stretch? Because it does feel like at this point, those 2 wins over Tampa and Florida, bit of an aberration. And this team kind of, you look at the deficiencies across the roster is what it is right now, and it ain't great.
Yeah, I think the positive you can take away is that the path has been decided for them, right? Like we were at practice on Tuesday before they flew out to Vegas, and I understand what a coach has to do to kind of get his team motivated, but Joe Sacco's up there talking like, "Oh, we're still in it," and it's like you're not. Like that's great, you think you are, but you're really not. Like barring something that nobody can see coming, which would be like winning 10 out of 12 games or 11 out of 13. Like no, like you're out of it, right? And so I think the only positive is within the fact that the Bruins now, I think the front office confronted their reality at the deadline, trading 3 guys, trading 5 players. In fact, if you include the Brazeau and Frederick trade, they accepted their reality. They acknowledged their reality. And now it feels like with the playoffs being a very, very, big long shot now, the coaching staff can face theirs. And so now you can coach with an eye towards the future. You can give more minutes to guys that, you're thinking the long game here versus the short game. And so I think maybe that's the only positive you can take away is that, okay, like reality at ice level is now hit you. And so how do you coach? How do you adapt? How do you deploy guys, knowing that, you're kind of playing for the future here now versus winning a game and staying in the race that night, so to speak.
Yeah. And I also think, listen, this season has not been a blast, I would say, to put things lightly. This team hasn't been able to go on a lot of runs. There hasn't been a lot of stretches where you feel like they're turning the corner. We've had multiple times, I think, on these podcasts where it's like, oh, maybe they're doing something. And it's usually like a 2-game win streak and then they fall on their face. Like they have not really had sustained stretches where you feel like really this team is about to get on a roll here and figure their shit out. And so I get that like this whole season has not been ideal. And from that perspective of Bruins fans, I've had a lot to be positive about, but at least like you look at, as you said, they made the decision at the deadline to rip the Band-Aid off, finally accept where they are. And, we've talked about this before, but this team, even when they've been competitive, we've been waiting for that dark cloud of like, well, they're going to have to blow it up at some point, right? Like they're going to have embrace the suck at some point. So they did, and it's over and done with now. And it stinks right now because they're not a good product on the ice. But I'm at least glad that the complete bottoming out, right, of like these games where you're getting 2, 3, 4 shots on goal period. You're just not competitive in these games. Hell, I don't even know what they're going to do against the San Jose Sharks and Ducks moving forward. Like, I couldn't tell you. The roster is what it is. I'm at least glad that it's something where the Bruins only have 12 games left. Like if this is this miserable stretch is 5-6 weeks of the season as opposed to the entire year of just bottoming it out. Now, if you just completely bottomed out, maybe you're getting Michael Misa and James Hagens. But I'm at least glad that like we only have a month to kind of go through this moving forward. It's going to be a long month. It's going to be pretty arduous, Ty, but at least it's not a whole year of this, because I don't know how, if you're a Sabres fan, how you do this every year, because Jesus Christ, it's not fun.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about that is that like even so, right? Like and they've been miserable, right? Like they've lost 12 out of their last 15, which is the first time they've done that since 2010, which if you remember that year, they lost like 10 games in a row. Like that's how they entered into that segment. It was that miserable year in 2009, 2010 where they couldn't really score at all. And they've lost 15 or 14 of 19 for the first time since 2006. You know, like they're kind of hitting records in stretches that they haven't in some time. And so you think about how bad the year has been, and you mentioned like, you know, not being able to get going here, right? But they have one win streak of over 3 games this year. One. And so even with all of that, they're still not as bad as Chicago, San Jose, Buffalo. Like it really speaks to how hard it is to truly build a tanking kind of roster in the NHL and build a roster that is going to be a lock for a top 5 pick, you know, a bottom 3 pick, whatever you want to call it. Like it's really hard to build that kind of team. And so Bruins are going through it right now. And I think emotionally and mentally, it's been hard for Bruins fans to watch these games because, you know, the product is bad and nobody watches teams with the intention of, okay, I want them to lose. Like nobody is a sports fan and they're like, yeah, my favorite team is, you know, it's the Sharks. We never win. Like no one operates like that. Like mentality wise. Yeah. Like no one's like, dude, I love the Panthers. What do you love about them? The Carolina Panthers, we never win a game. It's so sick, dude. We might get 4 wins this year. Like nobody goes into sports going, yeah, I want to be a loser. And so to watch losing hockey and to cheer for losing hockey is like just a really weird thing. And I think Bruins fans are kind of having a hard time adjusting to it because it hasn't been in their DNA basically ever. You know, like even go back to 2006, 2007, the last time they were like this bad, they weren't trying to be this bad. They went out and signed Chara and Savard. They were supposed to be a good team that year, and they weren't. And so you haven't seen a team like this in a very long time in Boston. And so I think emotionally, mentally, like you're like, whoa, what am I watching? Like how should I feel? If you have an overflow of emotions, I get it because it's a really weird spot to be in. I think as a fan, as an observer, as a writer, it's like you want to sit there and you want to bitch about the game, right? Like you want to look, they get their doors blown off by Vegas in that third period, and you want to go, oh, what a bunch of bums. It's not that they're trying. They're not a good team. And that's kind of, they traded away parts. They're without their 2 best defensemen. Like this is what it is. And so it's such a weird thing to watch and root for draft picks, but you know, in your heart of hearts that is the right move. To losing as many games as possible here is now the right move for this team, as weird and as uncomfortable and as lame as that is. Like you gotta do it.
I do like the term lovable losers. That is like, you know, they give that to like Cubs fans forever. And it's like, oh, these guys, they love it. Like, no, I feel like they're really fucking pissed because they haven't won a World Series in forever. It's like, no, they want to win. Like no one is happy to be in those spots to be perpetually sucking, as you said, which I find funny. It's like the same with the Red Sox. It's like, no, I think they'd rather would have won in like 86, 75. Like, no one puts that as a badge of honor that the team perpetually sucks and can't get the job done. But I digress.
No, exactly. I mean, that's how I felt. Like, you know, there is like an air of like I like the Cubs, as you know, and like there's an air of like, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not. No. This shit sucks. Win. Like win, please.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, I don't know if that's like my Boston side coming out and like, no, I don't want to win 80 games every year. I want to win a championship. And that's kind of fun. Like, you know, I grew up on like the era that I really became like a Cubs fan. Like they had Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor and they had Aramis Ramirez, they had Sammy Sosa, and you're like, oh, that's cool. You're like, hey, probably should have won. Probably should have won more. Like, you know what I mean?
If only Kerry Wood and Mike Pryor's like elbows weren't made out of like the stuff they use at Plaster Fun Time in Braintree. Like, if only that was the case, what could have been.
Mark Pryor, like the nastiest pitcher I've ever seen when healthy. Like,
yes.
he's up there in terms of like just how nasty he was, if not for all those injuries, and that's a real bummer. I think he's now like a pitching coach for like the LA Dodgers, I want to say.
It would make sense. I feel like those are one of those guys that they're so filthy that, you know, the body kind of breaks down and betrays them, but they still like, you can still at least somewhat impart that knowledge. There's also some guys that you're like, are so filthy that they're probably just like, oh, just throw like 101. It's like, well, I can't do that, dude. Like,
yeah,
it's like if Pedro's ever a pitching coach. Like, yeah, just throw the circle change like I did and then hit guys in the head. It's like, well, we can't do that now in 25, Pedro.
He is a pitching coach, by the way, for the Dodgers. I knew that. I was like, I wasn't sure if it was Dodgers or like he left and became like the Blue Jays coach or something like that.
Yeah. Well, good for Mark Pryor.
That's good for him. That's been Cubs talk here on the Bruins podcast.
Listen, Ty, we are scraping the bottom of the barrel. We still have a few more things to talk about, but we're laboring a little bit here. To what you said earlier, though, about how tough it is for teams to truly tank and to truly suck, I just feel like right now the only kind of positive Bruins fans can at least look to the future at beyond like this offseason, and they should be able to add and make this team better. But all right, Bruins fans are looking at this team getting their doors blown off by the Golden Knights. They might come up short against a team like Anaheim on the road, what have you, but they can be like, all right, we're at least getting a high draft pick. If this year, if there's any positives we can take out of it, we're getting a blue chip prospect. Yes, you're probably in the top 10 right now, but also when you look at how many teams are in front of you that also suck, you need like to lose a majority of your games. Like we're talking, what they have 12 games left, like 10 of 12. And then a lot of teams have to start piling a few wins together, right? You look at the Flyers that have been bottoming out. I don't know. I think the Islanders are still, maybe they might be in front of the Bruins now because of games in hand, but like Pittsburgh has to win a couple of games. Like you are kind of firmly in that 9 to 10 range right now. So as much as like this team has the capabilities of losing 10 of 12, and that might suck, but it gets you higher up in the draft order. It's also not a guarantee, or you're not on a set trajectory of like, all right, ride this year out. Team is not that good, but like we'll get the 6th overall pick. I think you're kind of looking at, you're lucky you move up a spot or two, maybe. And then you have to pray to the lottery gods that you get a little bump up after that. But it's not set in stone, even with the way this team is, because unfortunately, there's a lot of really crappier teams in front of the Bruins right now.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is that, you know, or depending on how it goes, is like you're playing some of those teams. Like you're playing Anaheim, you're playing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh and the Bruins are actually really close right now. And I think they got one more game with one another. So like it's possible, right? But like it is going to be challenging. And, you know, a great example of kind of what we're talking about is like, you know, I thought, okay, let's say they do try to make a run here. You get that 3-point game between the Islanders and Canadiens. Like, okay, that's the worst thing that could happen to you. So that's been happening there. But yeah, like it's going to be hard to truly kind of tank it, you know, especially with the way that David Pastrnak is playing. And, you know, I would say that you're getting some, I don't want to say great because like that's way too strong, but like, you know, Zadorov is playing the best he's probably played all year, right? Yeah. Mason Lohrei is scoring on the back end. You found some guys here with Middlestad and with Husseldinov, it looks like. And so like there's a weird balancing act there, right? Because you want to find guys that project into your future, but you also want to improve your draft positioning. So oftentimes when you try to appease two gods, you appease none. So there is that element here at play, but I think it comes back to kind of what I was saying earlier, where like they're giving good effort and they're just losing. So it's possible that they can just keep doing that, right? But it's also like, this is why they're in a weird spot too, because like you want to rebuild a culture, right? You want to restart from scratch when it comes to your culture. It's always hard to rebuild it when you're just losing games, right? And it's like, hey, build that culture. It's like, cool. Well, like we're losing and you kind of want us to lose, it feels like. So like, how can we rebuild that culture? So they are just really just like, they got their tentacles are everywhere right now. You know, it's like, what are you? What are you doing? But I do think the status quo should allow them to remain in the top 10 in the draft. Like that's a good thing. The doomsday here, Connor, is they win 8 out of 12 games down the stretch. They don't get 13, they don't make 14, the playoffs, and they fall out of the like. It's like, oh well, that's awesome. That's the exact opposite of what you wanted here. And so, how do you engineer that to not happen? And how do you sell your players on not wanting that to happen? Like it's a hard thing. Look at the Patriots. Look at week 18 or whatever it was. Those players were like, we're not tanking. We got to fight for our contracts. We got to fight for our future job security. We're going to go out and win that game. Like, and Joe Sacco and Sherrod Mayo are not too dissimilar. You know what I mean? In terms of like, this is his first chance in a long time.
Yep.
You want to have a good showing. If you get your doors blown off and you lose 10 out of 12 games, are you going to get a job again? Like,
right.
How does that work? Look at Ron Renneke with the Red Sox that year. That guy retired.
Great bad trivia question. Like in another 10 years, like who was the manager in 2020? It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, because everyone would be like, oh, John Farrell. No, wait, no, Alex Cora. No, that can't be it. Like it would legitimately be like but like Ron Renneke got so beat down by that trash ass Red Sox team that he just went, I'm done. And like, what do you mean you're done? He's like, I'm just leaving baseball. I'm good. I'm retiring. They're like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm out of here. Fuck off. Leave me alone. Like there is like that like it's a hard balancing act. And so it's just like I look at this team right now and I think, yeah, they're good enough to lose and to lose 8 out of 12. And you have to hope that's the case. But again, I feel like a massive loser bitch by feeling that way. Like, no, don't win, lose, you bunch of bums. Like, I don't know.
I think it comes down to what you said earlier, which I think the best case scenario is that this team can put the effort out there and like, maybe you don't lose games 5-1, but you lose games, 3-2 or something like that. And you have guys that are given greater roles that step up. But also I think it comes down to you're losing games not just because of like one or two things. It's just the roster is what it is. Like Jeremy Swayman's not had a good year. The defense in front of him is not great. Like you've got McAvoy and Lindholm both out, which like regardless of the trades, like that was going to sink your season anyway. Both those guys not being available. You got, a Mitchell Witherspoon D pairing that like, God bless them. Like it's getting exposed with all these heavier minutes. You've got guys that are fourth liners who are in a top 6 role. You've got AHL players up here that probably shouldn't be up here. Like, I think you can put the effort out there. But it also just the roster is what it is. So if you have that effort, but you also keep on losing, that does seem like the ideal scenario, because as you said, if they start winning games and you're out of that top 10, and that means you miss out, like again, Misa and Hagens, if you get the lottery for it, that's the best case scenario. If you get Misa, like by some miracle, like you're cooking. You can like just load up on the wings and be like, we got this sicko who's going to put up 100 points again in the OHL. But like, if you come out of here and you either move up the draft order or you just stay at 9, and that means you're getting one of, probably the guys that are tier above, but like Denoyer, Frundell, but even like Jack O'Brien or McQueen, who's got like back issues, but is a 6'5" centerman with a lot of skill. Any one of those centers means like you did what you needed to do in terms of getting a legit talent that you hope marinates and can help you out in a couple of years from now. But if you go out of the top 10, it does seem like there's going to be a run on centers in that top 10. And after that, you got some wings, you got a few guys, you got Bear, you've got Cameron Schmidt, who's a 5'7" winger, which like watch the Bruins take him and he's the first like super skilled winger that isn't good. But, they've a couple of D that, listen, you'll take them, but it's not what your long-term priority is. So if you do fall out of the top 10 or you're not able to get one of those centers, I don't feel like you're back where you started from, but it does make this season and the pain of going through it a little hollow if you don't have at least some prospect to look at and be like, we think we got something here. And that may not help us out in 25, 26, but maybe by March, maybe by the year after that, you've got a guy that can be part of your foundation moving forward.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it right there when you're talking about like, I think they'll be comfortable so long as they can get one of Jake O'Brien or Carter Bear. I think if they remain within striking distance of those players, I feel like they'll be like, you know what? Maybe not exactly who we wanted compared to who's in the top 5 and 5 through 9. But if you get one of those players, you feel good about your overall franchise, the outlook and the long-term, depth at that position. Whether it's at center or on the wing. Like Jake O'Brien feels like a guy who is very, very much like a Bruin type. You know what I mean? Like every scouting report you read, they talk about his two-way play. They talk about how he's able to score and defend well. And it's like, okay, well, who does that sound like? And I'm always very careful about the Bergeron comp, but like, look at the league and look at the division you're in. I've said this before on this podcast, but like, look at Florida. You got Barkov and you got Lundell, right? Look at Toronto. You got Austin Matthews, who I think is a very underrated two-way center. You look at all these teams, like they all have a center who can do it all, right? And so if you can get one of those guys who projects as a high pedigree kind of guy, like that's how you get those guys, right? Like it's just, we've talked about this before too. Like those centers don't hit the open market very often. And when they do, it's Elias Lindholm. It's Sean Monahan. It's Chandler Stevenson. Like, it's not guys that you're like, franchise, baby, franchise pillar. And guess what? I want to sit here and go, oh, Jack Eichel is going to be a free agent. He's probably not going to be. He's probably going to stay in Nevada, tax-free, face of the franchise. If he spends his whole career there, he's going to get his number retired. Like
he can come back to Boston, play Granite Links in the summertime.
Exactly. He can still skate at Warrior in August with all the other guys that live here in the offseason. Yeah. Oh, look at him. He's okay. He lives down the road. What do you want? But like, it's that's how you get that guy. And so I think they'll be comfortable if they can get, an O'Brien, a Bear, some of those other guys you mentioned, like, and that shouldn't be off the table here. It is if you go on a run, which again, like you hate being the guy hoping that they don't do that, but like, you have the potential here to get, I don't want to say a franchise pillar because we don't know. You never know with the draft. But like, top 12, kind of hard to like really screw that up now. Like the players are just so good and scouting is so readily available that, you're not relying on the one advice from your guy who's been stationed in Everett watching the silver tips. Like, no, you have access to a lot more information and viewing and what have you in today's game versus even 15 years ago.
Yeah, you just need the actual talent out there. If Jack O'Brien is a good 2C that gives you 65 points a year, yeah, I'll take that. Like, it's one of those things where I think people look at this draft and they say it's not the deepest. So like, a lot of centers are going in the top 10, but like how many of them, like even like Haggs, like is he like a franchise first line center? No, he might have a lot of 2Cs. That's fine. You'll take that if it's a piece of the puzzle that you need, right? Like, I think any one of those players can help you out there. So we will see how the draft lottery is in May, I believe. So that is one thing to keep tabs on. But for right now, Bruins unfortunately need to keep on losing, which is not fun, but we will see what happens this weekend. Ty, we're going to talk a little bit about guys in Providence and whether they can help out this team for the remainder of this year. But before we do that, take a quick break here from our friends over at Prizepicks. Football season might be over, but there's still plenty to look forward to on the sports calendar. So hit the ice this hockey season with Prizepicks, the best place to win cash while watching your favorite sports. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prizepicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash as you run your game all season long on Prizepicks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prizepicks is the best way to win real money this hockey season. Think Connor McDavid will get more than one goal next week? Will Austin Matthews hit for more than 5 shots on goal? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prizepicks. Don't miss your chance to cash in as the league's best fight for playoff positioning. Prizepicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money as quick as 15 minutes. On Prizepicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite hockey players with players from baseball, basketball, esports, and much more. There's no shortage of ways to participate in Prizepicks. This week, I'm looking at the hockey board and selecting David Pastrnak for more than 1 goal and Brady Tkachuk for more than 4 hits. It's really that easy. So download the Prizepicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS on the Prizepicks app to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks. Run your game. Shout out once again to our good friends over at Prizepicks. Ty, when you look at the state of this team right now, in fact, they can't score. Good news that they brought up Fabian Lysell. Did not play on Thursday, which, again, as soon as I saw, I think it was Jim McBride of the Globe is there in Vegas. He tweeted out the lineup from Morning Skate. I'm like, my investment in this game Thursday night at 10 o'clock just went way down. So at the very least, I want to see what a guy like him can provide on the ice. Not sure yet if he's in the lineup on Saturday against San Jose. Feels like would be an ideal matchup against a not great team. But what do you want to see from Lysell over these, final 12 games, depending on how much he gets in there? And where do you just feel like his place is on this Bruins hierarchy, or where they view him moving forward? Because I want to say it feels like he's on the outside looking in at next year, but also has he been given a legitimate chance, right? Like he's not in the Potter of Minton thing. It's like, are they just waiting to go through this year to move on from him? Because if that's the case, what did we really see in him? Because we didn't see a whole lot up at the NHL level, and that's not in terms of his play. It's we didn't get the 5-game sample size to see what he could really do up there, which is frustrating.
Oh, it's very annoying. It's not that I am a Fabian Lysell apologist, fanboy, supporter, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's the fact that you drafted this kid knowing that he was a high ceiling, mercurial kind of type where, like, that's why he fell to you, is that he has confidence. He believes in himself as an offensive player. And if you spend 4 years trying to change him in terms of his personality makeup or his demeanor as a scoring threat because you want him to be more well-rounded, why'd you draft him in the first place? That just doesn't make any damn sense to me. And so you don't draft a player and then go, we're going to draft this guy and then completely change him. It's like, well, wait, no, just don't draft him then. Draft somebody else. Draft somebody who fits your bill more than that kind of player. And so he needs more time. He needs more runway. I hate when people go, oh, he's a bust. How do we know? He's played 9 minutes in the NHL. We don't know. I'm sorry. And if you want to say, well, he hasn't been lighting up the AHL. Okay. You kind of knew that about him in the first place. Do you know that during his draft year, he was on the junior team for his team in Sweden? And he said, no, I want to be on the pro club. And they said, no, you're on the junior club. And he said, okay, then trade me. I don't want to be here. I want to be on the pro. I want to be on the pro club. Put me on the pro club. So they traded him to another team in Sweden, who then put him on the pro club. Like, he's always been a confident kid. He's got that swagger. And I think you need more of that. I think you need more of that swagger, more of that confidence with the puck on their stick, or the speed, the skill, whatever you want to call it. And so I do think that you got to give him some runway here, because if he can pop and if he can be a good player for you, oh my God, that's amazing. Now you don't have to spend $5 million on a 31-year-old, right wing who you're going to get 1 good year out of or 2 good years out of. Like that's kind of where they are right now. And so I want to see him play. Because I don't think you've seen enough to have an actual opinion about him. Like, I can't sit there and tell you he's good. Yeah. I can tell you, though, that I've seen enough of everybody else. I've seen enough Riley Tufte and Vinny Lettieri and Oliver Wahlstrom and Max Jones and Tyler Johnson. Like, I've seen enough of all those guys. Like, one of whom is like out of hockey entirely right now. Like, that's how bad he was. So show me this guy. Show me this high ceiling first round pick of yours, and let me find out if he can play. Let me find out what he can do. Let's keep it simple. When he made his debut back in December, did you watch his game and go, oh yeah, he's got to go back to the minors? Like, he was fine. He could have given you more, perhaps, right?
Had a few lapses, but also used his speed to literally create your first goal.
Yes. And so there was no reason for him to go back after that game, in my opinion. You should have given him some more runway. They didn't. But right now, I mean, listen, you bring in Casey Middlestad, who's making $5.75 million, I want to say.
Yeah.
It's not a huge ticket, but it's not a small one either. Like that's a pretty big number. Right now, he's playing with Cole Koepke and Vinny Lettieri. Hard-working players that fill a role. Not part of your future, though, most likely. Fabian Lysell should be part of your future one way or the other, whether that's here or being parlayed into a trade to bring in another piece, right? Why don't you give Middlestad some actual high-ceiling wingers and see what happens here? Like, it's never been easier than the opportunity they have right now. They got 12 games. We've talked about this. They're probably not making the playoffs, almost certainly not making the playoffs. When are you ever going to get 12 NHL games that don't really mean a lot to you and that you have to experiment, right? Probably not never again if the Bruins have it their way. So use them. Use them to your actual advantage. And if you don't, that's such an annoying waste of time for everybody involved.
Yeah, it's almost like the Bruins are operating with house money, right? Where let's say you bring up Lysell, you give him, 10 of 12. Just play him every game. Like I say that, like,
yes.
I feel like he won't, but give him every game. And if he has a stat line like what Merkulov has had, right? Like 10 games, 0 goals, 1 assist, then the Bruins and all of us can be like, all right, I wish they found out earlier, but maybe he just doesn't have it. Maybe he's just a guy that isn't part of the long-term solution here, which is unfortunate, but at least Now, instead of having people tell us that he's a bust or that he's not ready, we can see it with our own eyes. If he's getting pushed to the perimeter, if he's trying to go 4-on-1 and then getting walloped, trying to get into the slot with the puck on his stick, all right, we've seen it. And all right, we can now move on to the Potters and the Mintons and the next wave of guys, right? We have that clarity. We don't have to go into next training camp. And when the Bruins didn't sign a third-line winger and they're just looking at the internal competition, they don't have to say Fabian Lysell could make a push. You play him and he's not there and he's not up to par for what you need from a player like that, we can move on and take a deep breath. But on the other side, right? So if we get that clarity and we find out that he's got something with Middlestat, how much does that elevate what you think he could be moving forward? Like if you go these last 12 games and you put Middlestat and Lysell together, and Lysell's got 4 goals and he's playing well and is supporting and making an impact there, you got something there. It's not set in stone, but all of a sudden, if that's a guy that, especially if you find out who he works best with, that kind of changes the complexion. It's the same with the guy like Khusnutdinov, right? He came in as a 4th-line guy, and you're seeing a player that, where will he be in the lineup next year? Not sure yet. You know that you could definitely put him on the 4th line if needed, if you just want speed and skill down there. But look at the way he plays with a guy like Elias Lindholm. If Elias Lindholm's like your defensive 3C and they played well together, you've seen it. So it gives you the option, right, of being like, maybe he is like a 3rd-line guy that could give us 15 goals in the right spot. And we wouldn't have known that if he was down in Providence right now, or if he's just playing with Mark Kastelik and Johnny Beecher, right? So I think you look at the same thing with Lysell. If he's not it, then and you can move on. But if he shows you something, especially with, I think for the Bruins, it's all about kind of finding those duos that play well together and play off each other really well. So if you can go into the offseason and a guy like Lysell is showing something with someone like Middlestat, then you can move forward with that at least vision, right? Of, all right, maybe we don't have to spend $5 million on Yoel Armia as a 3rd-line winger or something like that, right? I don't think they'll get him anyway because he fucked up Charlie McAvoy's shoulder. But you don't have to spend that kind of money when you already have so many holes to account for this offseason if he shows you something. But again, we haven't had the opportunity to see it yet. And to what you said, right, of Lysell's a confident player. And it's well, all right, it hasn't been the most linear path for him, but he's being a brat. Why isn't he giving his all every single game? It's it's human nature. I'm not trying to go to bat for the guy, but it's also human nature. If you're skilled and you're confident in your abilities, and I'm sure for Lysell, he's I was almost a point per game guy last year. I showed you what I could do, and I'm not going to get a shot. All right, I'd love to fucking prove you all wrong, and he hasn't had that yet. So again, not saying that it's an excuse, but I think human nature factors into it as to this year, especially, is why if you were expecting him to have a 70-point year after last season and then not getting an opportunity. And again, like, didn't have a good training camp, but I still doesn't mean that should lead to one game of the NHL at this point on March 22nd either.
No, and talking to him before they left for Vegas, he said, he goes, I feel like I've gotten stronger. He's like, I feel like I've gotten stronger and that I'm more equipped to play the NHL game now. He's like, I just got to go out and I got to prove it, and so I think that's something, there's something to be said for that. Like, if a player is confident, like, you don't want to kill their confidence, right? Like, that was something the Bruins sort of experienced, I think, firsthand with Trent Frederick, where, he was getting beat down by Bruce Cassidy's way of doing things. And, it's worked for Vegas, clearly. The way it's a team that, they handle the tough love, they handle all that, but not every player is like that. And so, if I have a young player in my organization, my objective isn't to beat them down and to get them to conform to, whatever standards we have. Like, yeah, you don't want a guy who's going to walk in like a dick, but like, I don't get that vibe from Fabian. I just don't. And I know people can think that, they can say that, but like, I think he's a very thoughtful, person in terms of like, yeah, I just want a chance, man. Like, who the hell are we to be like, no, how dare you want a chance? Like, what the hell are you talking about? Give the kid a chance if he's earned it. And right now, I think there's a mix, as you mentioned, the 50 points in 56 games a year ago. Like that's a good number. There's also a mix of like, all right, man, there's no way you can tell me straight up that Fabian didn't deserve the same opportunity that you gave Oliver Wahlstrom and Riley Tufte and Max Jones and Tyler Johnson. Like that's where like the messaging kind of rings hollow. If you want to say to a kid, hey, you got to earn it more. Okay. But if the guys above him aren't earning it, then what are we doing here? Right. Like, rules for some, but not all. I'm not a big believer in that either. So I hope he gets a chance and I hope he plays well, because it would mean really good things for the Bruins long-term if he can pop off and have a good little run to end the season here. Just gives you something to build on for next year. Right. Like we feel good about Hustadinov right now. It's a very small sample size. So, but that's where we are right now. We're desperate for things to feel good about for this team moving forward into next season and beyond.
Yeah. So we will see. Hopefully he gets in the lineup, ideally on Saturday night against San Jose, but we will see when he does get his opportunity. Yep.
When you're an emergency recall.
Yep.
Is it similar to how like the Four Nations thing went, where like there needs to be an injury for you to be in the lineup? Is that like kind of how that works?
I think so, but I think also you can kind of do the little like wink.
Oh, we got the flu
like,
going through our room.
Yeah, or like guy's banged up, like
yeah,
he's got an upper body. I think if you just say a guy's banged up, I don't think you need to like show the NHL. You don't have to fax the NHL front office like an MRI or something like that, So
not to be a dick, but I don't know if the NHL is watching Bruins San Jose tonight with a keen eye and being like, hey, wait a minute, like I don't know if that's on their docket.
The NHL lottery guys are like, we could give the first to Schaefer, and then like they'd be good, and then like if we get the Bruins a hype, but we could really get this thing popping off. I feel like I'm all for like San Jose being good again. Like they've actually,
yes.
You look at where they were like 2 years ago of like that cap and everything in the contracts having books. I was like, that team is fucked, and like Mike Greer's done an awesome job, and that's a fun team. So like San Jose being the team out west that actually has some resurgence, I'd be all for it. Give them Schaefer, and then like Bruins get Nysa, and everyone wins, and get Chicago down to like 10. Like fucking that team is just junk. We don't need those
they don't
guys.
Deserve anything good. They just don't.
Yeah.
I would say that San Jose, like they're the non-traditional markets that I think being good for the game beyond the obvious of Vegas, who won a Stanley Cup. Like Tampa has built a really good fan base down there. It's really impressive. I think Tampa, Dallas, San Jose, LA, if you want to include them, they've been around for a while, but again, it's LA. It's not really a traditional hockey market.
It's not a traditional sports market.
Those teams being good, I think, is good for the league. Dallas is a huge TV market. San Jose, not as much, but you've seen that building, you know what I mean? Like in the playoffs, you've seen it when it's been at their peak. And that's a franchise that, they haven't been like straight up irrelevant for as long as you think for a team that is based out of Northern California. a team that has only been around since the early 90s. Like they're not like the irrelevance level of like, say, like, the Ottawa Senators are always playing in the shadow of the Canadiens and the Maple Leafs, and it sure feels like that. You know what I mean? But San Jose has always been like a pretty respectable franchise for the majority of, I'd say, our lifetimes, which is kind of interesting. Just as a team, again, that's not, traditional, so to speak.
Yeah. I was actually rewatching the 2019 first round, the game 7 of San Jose and Vegas, where like Pavelski like died. And they scored like 4,
brutal.
And they scored 4 goals on the 5-minute power play, and then they won in overtime. It was Barclay Goodrow. Game was electric, and that was I think the SAP Center, and it was rocking for that. Very bummed that beyond the fact that the Bruins lost to the Blues, that my ideal matchup, that Stanley Cup final, was going to be San Jose Bruins. Like the storylines there would be unbelievable. That was also a fun San Jose team. Like they had star power all over the lineup. Alas, they didn't have Jordan Binnington and the St. Louis Blues. But
you go back and you watch those. You go back even farther, right? And sorry to go down the road, the rabbit hole of San Jose hockey here, but like when they had like Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, Danny Heatley, Dan Boyle, I think Nabokov was the goalie for those latter years. Like it was wild how much talent they had. Like they brought in Jeremy Roenick at one year. Like they were like a complete team. And it was a lot of fun to watch those games. Like this was back before ESPN Plus, so like you'd have to watch it on like your computer or the NHL Center Ice package. But man, I used to be so excited when like I'd get home from work or whatever, or get home from a Bruins game, and you turn on NHL Network and they're airing the San Jose game. You'd be like, oh yes, here we go! Like this is a great game to watch. Like it was always really cool. Them and like the obviously Bruins fans know about this team, but like the 2010s Canucks. Whatever you would turn on your NHL Network and those teams would be on TV, you're like, I'm getting a good game. I love it. Let's dig in. So it's always good. I think they're going to be better quicker than people realize. I San Jose. I think they will. And you mentioned Mike Greer, really, really smart GM, the way that he's navigated their rebuild. So I think they're turning the corner quicker than people realize.
Yeah, we're honestly missing a Schaefer because like Celebrini is friggin' unbelievable. No bias there. But even like Will Smith, who like people were saying like probably could have used another year at BC. Like he's actually, I think, really kind of come on the last month or so, which is what you want to see out of a guy like that.
Worst thing about him, he wears number 2. I hate a forward wearing number 2. I don't like it.
I don't like the number 2 anyway on any jersey. Like I think Bregman's got that now on the Red Sox. I'm always like, oh, not a good number.
Not a good look. I just, as a forward though, every time he's playing, I'm like, oh, is that a defenseman activating? What's happening right now?
Yeah,
like it's a weird number for a forward.
Yeah, not ideal for that, but I guess we will overlook it if he's filthy representing Lexington and I guess BC, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah, shout out Villalago. Shout out Rankatori's Ice Cream. Shout out that Minuteman Trail.
There you go. Absolutely. Ty, we got one more thing to talk about before we do that. Let's take a quick break. Here from our friends over at Gametime Tickets. Football season is over and the Bruins season is winding down, but don't fret because the Celtics are beginning their quest for Banner 19 and Fenway Park is going to be bumping real soon. And if you want to catch a Sox game or watch the C's take to the court on Causeway, you got to go with Gametime Tickets. With kiddo last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA, NHL, and MLB tickets. There's nothing like taking in a Celtics game, playoff game at the TD Garden. The crowd roaring when Tatum sinks a 3, the sounds from the court when Jaylen Brown throws down a slam dunk. There's nothing better, and Gametime Tickets is the best way to get you into the Garden this postseason. Gametime Tickets app makes it easy to sort through which specific game, concert, or other event you want to attend and shows you the best spots available to take in the action. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks, which makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Gametime Tickets also has you covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, including event cancellation protection, 24-hour return guarantee, job loss assurance, and on-time ticket delivery. So what are you waiting for? Take the guesswork out of buying basketball tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. Shout out once again to our good friends over at Gametime. Ty, final topic of the day. We've talked about Lysell and the opportunity he's going to get. Where do you stand on calling up other guys from Providence and beyond the guys like Lysell, Merkulov, but players like Fraser Minton, who had a hat trick last week, Patra? Where do you stand? Because it feels like there's two different schools of thought there in terms of, do you keep these guys just down in Providence, let them marinate, keep them away from a pretty bad NHL roster and just have them get a clean slate going to next year? Or do you want to see these guys cut their teeth now and see what maybe you have in them to build off of going into next year?
So when it comes to Patra, I think there's been too much Michael Scott vasectomy kind of snip, snap, snip, snap.
I want to see stomp.
I think that I'd want to keep him down there, I think, for the rest of the year. I just think that at this point in his career, coming off the injury a year ago, I just think that long-term development, that's the name of the game with a guy with Patra. So I'm cool to keep him down there for the rest of the year. I don't think we're going to learn anything about him if he gets called back up between now and game 82, because what's happening, right? It's not like he's going to develop a connection with Husnudinov right now or Mittelstadt right now, and you're going to go, oh, wow, everything's changed. No, you're going to have time to do that. You're going to have an off season. You're going to have training camp, a preseason, all of that. So I'm down to keep him down there for the remainder of the season. You look at their roster. Yeah. Like Fraser Minton would be curious to bring over. I would say, at the same time though, what's his long-term plan? Is he a center? Is he
cook?
Yeah. And so maybe you want to just get him down there and keep him feeling good and get his fit there. One guy I think you brought him up the other day. We were talking at the game or at practice, was Billy Sweezy.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be down to bring him up, right? And why I say that is because you look at this roster right now and you look at what they have on the back end. You mentioned Mitchell and Wotherspoon, two guys that are giving you their all, but have obvious limitations. With a guy like Sweezy, the Bruins have been really good at identifying depth players, but whether it be on the fourth line or on the back end. Wotherspoon is a great example of that. Could Sweezy be that guy? And I think especially, Connor, you look at sort of this roster here and what are they lacking? It's not talent. I mean, it is talent, but you're not going to fix that overnight.
Right.
It's jump. It's energy. It's a lot of those kind of things that when you're a sluggish team, when you're a bad team, and when you're a tanking team, you got to have some jump, some energy, some juice, some guy to bring some noise. A guy like Billy Sweezy could be that kind of guy. And so my reasons for wanting to see him are two-pronged. One is do you have something here that could be a good 7th D for you next year? Because right now I think that's Michael Callahan, but do you make a competition there? And secondly, being the energy and the picking guys up and kind of, running with it here, so to speak, over the final 12 games.
Yeah. I almost feel like there's two different tiers, right? There's the Lysells, the Merkulovs, which we'll see if he gets another chance. I don't know if the Bruins have kind of made the ruling on him yet. But those guys that you got to figure out sooner rather than later, not sooner rather than later, right now, whether they're here for the future. And then you've got the Patras and the Mintons where you can make the case, you could give them some minutes up here if you wanted to, but you know what? They're going to be pieces for the future. We kind of know what they are. We've seen what Minton can do down there. Let's have him, as you said, feel good about his game, go on a deep run, and kind of attack the new year and make a push during camp, because he does feel like a guy that is going to be part of the equation next year. I don't know if that's going to be in October, mid-year, but this guy who's 20 years old has already played, 20 games on a pretty top-heavy Toronto forward core. So, I think he's a guy that I think Bruins fans should be excited about, because he could be a third-line regular by next year if he kind of continues to take steps forward, but maybe not rush him up right now if you think it's better served playing 18, minutes down in Providence, especially if you got guys like Lettieri and these guys up here. There's opportunity down there in terms of just playing top line minutes, right? So
excellent point. That is sort of the name of the game here, and that's what makes it kind of hard, because if you bring these guys up, they're going to be playing third line probably, fourth line. They're not going to be playing on the power play or the PK. And so it's about, okay, like what makes them feel better about their game right now? Is it logging all situation minutes, playing 7 a night down in the AHL? Or is it coming up here on a bad team, playing 13 minutes and, hoping you get some results 5-on-5 and you get a chance on the power play? Like that's why I think it's like the guys that I want to call up are like, it's very role dependent, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like if you bring up a guy like John Farinacci, who's 24 years old, has been producing, over half a point per game in the minor since going down there. Like he projects as a fourth liner at the NHL level or a third liner at the NHL level. Some of these other guys, like you're aiming higher, right? And so if you can't give them those minutes now, is it worth bringing them up, right? Like, and that's sort of why I'm like, my picks aren't sexy picks. I fully admit it, but it's because I just think that you're thinking role wise and in minute wise, because I do think there's something to your point about like, if you're a younger player and now you have minutes because, Patrick Brown or Vinny Lettieri are up here, like you're going to feel better about your game, just confidence wise, because you're being leaned on as more of a go-to person for a team.
Yeah. So we will see what the Bruins end up doing in terms of any more calls, but again,
who would you want to see? Who would you, sorry to interrupt, like who would you want to see up here?
I mean, definitely the next wave of guys, the Lysells, the Merkulovs, you want to give them a shot. I'd be intrigued by Minton like the last week of the year, but that depends on what he's doing down in Providence. Also, if he's cooking down there, like maybe it is just it's like cutting into a steak, you're not letting it rest. It's like, no, don't touch it. It's same with like Patra, right? Like, and I think Patra is an intriguing guy, not for this year, because I agree. I think he should just stay down there, and he's been producing in the AHL, so keep him down there. Have him rack up points, feel good about his game. But he's a guy that's really interesting in terms of what the expectations or where the projections are for him next year. Because I feel like going into this season, he was coming off of shoulder surgery, but you're like, all right, he showed a lot last year. He should be better. Is this going to be like a 40-point guy, right? And then like it was kind of a lost year for him. So like, going to next year, I am curious like how the Bruins view him and what the expectations should be. Because like if he could take a step forward and be a playmaking centerman, that'll help you out a great deal. But I don't really exactly know what his not ceiling is, because I feel like he has the potential to be a middle six playmaker, but what he should be next year, I'm really not sure. Right? I just feel like he's kind of in this weird limbo kind of spot where you don't really know what the actual benchmarks are for him going into next season.
So here's the question. Here's a wild one, like kind of off the board a little bit here. DiPietro, would you want to see him before the end of the season?
That one I would love to see. I didn't even think of that, but that's someone that, especially if you're trying to maximize cap space and you can find a taker for Korpisalo. And I understand like people bring that up and like, they're not moving that contract. With the cap being what it is now and the amount of teams that just need stability in net, including maybe the Bruins. But like, if you're just trying to max out and you're already giving Swayman $8 million, if you're able to find a taker for Korpisalo with the cap jumping up the way it is, and you roll out a guy like DiPietro who can give you something, I'd be more interested in that. Because, like, again, that could blow up in your face if Swayman ain't it. But if Swayman ain't it, you got deeper problems than figuring out your goaltending rotation, right? Like, so if you're going to, I'd rather you spend, allocate $8.75 million in your goalie rotation than $11 million the way it is right now, if you're not going to play Korpisalo that much anyway. So, yeah, I would give DiPietro a game or two, see what he can do. And if he does well, I think it further, open up the options to potentially moving Korpisalo for a team that probably would use him a lot more. I don't even think Korpisalo has been bad this year, but like he's wasted on this team if you're going to give Swayman 70% of the stats, right? So, yeah, no, that's a good one I didn't even think of.
So, and a big reason why I'd want to, if I'm the Bruins, is DiPietro is, I believe, a pending UFA. I think some sites list him as an RFA, but I believe he is a UFA at the end of the season. And so, to your point, if you can save money, if you can bring him up and he has a couple of good games, the Bruins have only done AHL to the NHL without any prior experience in your system once, and it was Nicholas Svedberg, and it didn't work out the way they wanted it to. He went right from the AHL to the NHL. They didn't give him a look, but like if you go back, like the Bruins gave Anton Hudobin, I think, one game in 2011, 2012, and then he was back up the next season. So like they tend to like to give their future backups like a little bit of a runway here when it's not a veteran guy. But yeah, as you mentioned, $33.5 million in cap space right now. If you can trade Korpisalo, that goes up to 36.5. Like you can get some impact players, whether you want to shoot for the moon, with a guy like Mitch Marner, if he hits the open market, or you want to maybe go for a twofer, you get two $7 million wings, you Brock Besser, Nikolai Ehlers, like whatever you do, like you got the cap space here and the ability to bring in some high price players. And if you can ditch a $3 million goalie that you're only going to play 20 games a year, I mean, yeah, we've harped on it again and again on this podcast, I know, but like the way they've utilized the Korpisalo this year has been very frustrating because it's just negated the entire point of having an expensive tandem, as you mentioned. Like if you're not going to deploy them 50-50, then what are we doing spending $11 million on that position when you have glaring holes elsewhere? That's $3 million you could have spent on Anthony Duclair, who I know has had injuries, but like if they had Anthony Duclair in their lineup, prior to the deadline, they're probably not selling as hard as they were. Like they just think about how many games they lost because they just couldn't score, right? They were one impact offensive player away from winning that game. Like there's a lot. And so, they've scored 2 goals max, like 35 times now this year, 36 times, the second most in the league. So it's been a problem for them all year long. And if you're not going to utilize that goaltending tandem, then don't have a tandem for that price. Just don't do it. That's a very expensive tandem.
Yeah. So we will see what they end up doing. I do. Yeah. I'm glad you pointed out DiPietro because that's a really good option as well. So we'll see what they do over these last 12 games. Ty, before we let you go, where can we read your stuff? Where can we hear you on the airwaves? All that good stuff.
By the way, not sure if you even saw this because I just found this out today.
Oh,
Ty Gallagher signed with the Peepers.
Yes.
Didn't even know that. Just completely slipped my mind the other day.
Yes. So again, I guess former BU guy, went to Colorado College after he kind of his play dipped his junior year, but right shot D, I believe, playmaking guy. So another guy you add to the mix, right? So something worth keeping tabs on.
And also, they won 10-2. Providence did on Friday night.
I had to do a double take when I got that email looking at it. Like, God damn. So
yeah, no, I didn't know that because that's how I found out because I was reading the box score and I was like, oh, okay, Jake Gaudette, okay. I was like Ty Gallagher. Like I was like, wait a minute, when did this happen? So so that's how I found out.
Yeah. So again, another guy to add to the system, see what he can do down the stretch there with ideally maybe guys like Potter and Minton. Let them cook for this playoff run. I feel like we all might be in Providence for a couple of games going into the spring if there's no playoffs up here, but.
Yeah, you boys from Providence?
None of your business where we're from. These are dirty people. Anyway, before we go through the entire script of The Departed, Ty, where can we read your stuff? Where can we hear you on the airwaves?
I called you. The number you gave me.
You mugs got a light. Everyone's just turning off their podcast. They see there's like a minute and 11 seconds left. They're like, fuck this. We're not.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah. Working overtime. Anyways, you can find me at 90.
Glad to hear that.
Weirdest dialogue ever. You can find me at 985thesportshub.com. Also on the air, the hockey show, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Saturday morning. You can also find me online at _Ty Anderson. I'm just Google my name. You'll find me. Just ignore all the bad Googles and enjoy the good ones. So that's where you can find me. How about yourself?
Studying law at Notre Dame. No, I'm just kidding.
Damn it.
You can find
in this country.
You can find me over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe and read all my stuff there. We have it covered for the remainder of this Bruins season and going into a very busy off season. You can also find me on Twitter at Conor Ryan _93. Ty, thank you once again for talking hockey and The Departed. This is episode 314 of Poke the Bear. You fans have a great rest of your week.